Navigating an SAP transformation? We get it. By day, we work hands-on with people like you across the globe. By night, we share what actually works. Welcome to Transformation Every Day with Alexander Greb and Johannes Languth, where your complex transformation becomes clear, actionable, and achievable.
What if the biggest reason your digital transformation fails has nothing to do with technology? Today's guest has spent nearly 30 years answering exactly that question, and he's done it without a single traditional playbook. Mark Green is the founder of Change Rebellion, and he's exactly what the name suggests. Someone who built a career by refusing to do change management the way the big consultancies told him to. No over-engineered frameworks, no smoke and mirrors, no charging senior rates for junior work, just a relentless belief that when people in the workplace are genuinely supported through change, they thrive. We're going to get into why change management was dismissed as filler for decades, how AI is finally forcing organizations to rediscover the human side of transformation, and why the grumpiest person in the room might actually be your greatest ally. And because this is Mark, we're also going to talk about LinkedIn. Why the algorithm is a beast, why being funny is harder than it looks, and why the most powerful thing you can post is just the truth. Buckle up, this one runs like a conversation in the pub, exactly as intended. I'm Alexander Greb, and this is Transformation Every Day. How has your year been for you until now?
So tomorrow, it's 3 years that Change Rebellion has been running. So tomorrow I'm going to celebrate. Really good. Some ups, some downs. I'm not sure what it's been like for you, but the market has been really challenging, particularly this past year and a half, maybe 2 years. But we're on a high at the moment. It's going well. I'm going to be introducing people to 3 new members joining Change Rebellion soon. And I'm feeling really positive about it. I think I'm very proud of the fact, and we've been connected for a long time, that I've never done anything traditional. So I've not followed traditional consultancy methods or frameworks or approaches, or I don't do it. If anything, I'm the complete opposite. So, but that it's worked. And I think that's what I'm really delighted with. It's not following their techniques, their ways of working, their the methods for selling, upselling, all that kind of stuff. We don't do any of that. So, I'm really proud of that.
Do you think that also maybe you are at the moment with that change management topic at the right place in the right time?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, I've been working in this industry for, I don't know, maybe 20, almost 30 years. I know it's hard to believe, man and boy.
You started with being 6 years old, I know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Take that all day. So I think it's been difficult because for those, say, first few years, maybe 20, 25, trying to explain the importance of change management is really, really challenging. People either haven't got it, or it's a nice to have, or, whoever said years ago it was soft and fluffy, they want assassinating, because that's just done so much damage to our industry. Lately, though, obviously, the last 3-4 years, AI, and everybody all of a sudden has gone, well, we need to be human-centric. This big thing's coming out, AI, whether you're scared by it, excited about it, whatever camp you're in, people are going humans first. And the panels I've sat on and the rooms I've been in, I just go, welcome to my world. This is change management. This is what we've been talking about for a long time.
Absolutely. And to jump on that, what you said, I remember there were times I was actually afraid putting change management into proposals, because the reason was, and I remember one direction and reaction to that, it was 15 years ago or something like that, quite well, when there was a point of like change management in a proposal for an implementation. And the customer looked down the chart and said, you got filler in there. Yeah, so that was immediately the first thing to be stricken out. We don't need that. Because the PM does it, or whatever. It was just not needed. That was the attitude. You had at that point. Until people realized that they were actually using or actually losing a lot of money from their project budget. And actually a lot of value by not implementing change management in the first place.
It's change management itself is about helping people in the workplace go through something, whether that be technology, process, whatever. And it amazes me that for years, exactly to your point, for years people were going, we don't really need it. It's okay. If you're people, you can have the shiniest bit of tech in the world. You can have the flashiest, most expensive, highest rated tech. If your people don't use it and aren't on board with it, it's never going to land. It's not going to be adopted. It's not going to work. You'll have spent all that money and people will be reverting as much as possible to their old way of working, where they're comfortable, feel safe, know it. So how for years, but then I guess there's a lot of generational stuff, and we've changed throughout history around the importance of people in the workplace, well-being, psychological safety, all those kind of things. Now, probably 30 years ago weren't deemed important. It was just, we'll write a policy, we'll put a poster up, and that was it at most.
Exactly.
Whereas now it's far more important.
Absolutely. And what's also important is that we do not forget our traditional intro, because we have a beautiful, wonderful, highly intellectual guest today here, Mark Green, who is really prominent not only in the change management community, but also because you're one of the few actually funny people on LinkedIn.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
So that will be our second part in our conversation, which I'm really looking forward. We will probably having some rants about LinkedIn, because although we might be accused, both you and me, and I heard it from myself, that we probably would love LinkedIn and fully exploit it and so on. But we want to talk about that. Yeah, what's the actual state of this place? But first, change management, definitely.
Yeah, happy to, more than happy to.
To revert back what you were, because you were already in such a wonderful conversation about that. The thing with change management is that, at least in my opinion, change management belongs, if you treat the classical why, what, how segmentation of approaching a topic, is definitely in the how region. And how was always something that, especially from when I look at my history, like a tech company working for SAP and so on, that was always the one that you did not really want to talk about. Yeah, because that's, I do not want to accuse anybody of thinking that how is not sexy. Okay, about how you cannot make the how topics, the LinkedIn posts are quite scarce there. But the cool things are, for those people, is the what. Yeah, showing the shiny solution, showing the shiny capabilities, tech stuff. That's hot, that's cool, and so on. Also talk about the why, yeah, because then you are a thought leader if you talk about the why you should do things with those technological gizmos. But the how stuff was also always a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
But that's where change management actually happens. And as such, it was, from my perspective, long time in the shadow of the whys and the whats, and did not really receive the credit it deserves. But as you said, first, the gap between what's actually possible with technology, with transformation and so on, what companies could achieve and what actually is achieved in the most places is widening quite hugely, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess, like I said, people are realizing how much money they have lost or would lose if they would not employ change management. Hi there. Quick break for a short message before we go right back to the episode. Enjoying the insights and stories on transformation every day? Want to make sure you never miss an episode packed with practical tips and best practices from the SAP world, featuring conversations with some of the most interesting people in the SAP universe? Then hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform, whether it is Apple, Spotify, or any other you use. And if our podcast brings you value, we would be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a 5-star review and share it with your friends and colleagues. Your support means the world to us. Thanks so much, and happy listening.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think what's interesting, from particularly when you're talking about SAP, is people who are delivering something, so project managers, program managers, are typically very excited about what they're delivering. What they need to realize is the people they're delivering it to aren't. So that's where change management comes in. It's our job to get them excited, to get them in the same place. And I
Yeah.
think it's quite often, when people don't value change management, you can tell because they'll go, well, "This is the best thing ever. We're delivering this. It's awesome. It's great, etc." But actually, the people who are going to receive it are going, "I don't want to do this. I've worked the way I worked for 20 years. Why would I want to change?" And these project and program managers and the like are shocked and horrified. They're like, how dare you? How dare you reject this? But it's really, really common. It's just human nature about changing. I think the other thing as well that you touched upon is around change management itself and the lack of understanding and the lack of its importance. Me, and I'm going to say this is my opinion because it might be a bit controversial, but I think it's really clear why it's viewed the way it's viewed. It's because change management as a concept was a wonderful thing, great thing. Let's help people in the workplace go through something. What happened was big consultancies, we all know who they are, saw that and went, we can sell that. So what we need to do to sell it though is make it really overcomplicated, make it sound like a science or something really
Yeah.
mystical arts kind of thing, and then we'll sell it. And that's what they did. And they muddied the water. Then you'd have people coming out and going, well, change management isn't very good because they'll have seen what the big boys and girls delivered. And then all of a sudden you've got an industry not rated, not really understood, and just undervalued completely. So what I like at the moment is there's people like myself coming out going, no, they got it all wrong. This is what it is. We're here to really help people in the workplace. And it's almost like I'd say the past 3, 4 years, maybe 5 years, has been a real awakening. There's more independence, more people talking about the real good stuff about change management. But yeah, I mean, for me, biggest reason why our industry was damaged for decades was because of what big consultancies did to it. We'll take it, we'll bastardize it, and then we'll sell it to everybody. Yay, make millions.
And the go-to-market the go-to-market was able to destroy a lot of things in the past already, and probably it will. But do you think that change management is something like a universal tool, universal capability, or do you think you would be put different flavors on it based on actually what you are about to attack?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it comes down to there's a simple concept, but then there's so many almost side streams
Yeah.
to the river of change management. There's cultural change, behavioural change, people change, tech change, process change, all these different changes that I think we need to be involved in all of that, and I love all of that. And call me insane, but I do. I love all of that stuff. But I think just as a concept as itself, we're now being recognised for the value we add, and I think we're going to go from strength to strength in terms of change management. I'm still waiting and hoping for the day where we are highly desirable. That would be my dream. I'm waiting for people to wake up and go, "We needed them ages ago. We should get those people in." But I think we are going through a transition, and I think a lot of that is to do with people's fear around technology,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like, and also all the mistakes that have been made historically. How many SAP implementations have you sat through where it hasn't worked because it's not landed, it's not adopted. People haven't onboarded it, or they've gone, yeah, we'll turn it on, and they've turned it on, but nobody's gone and stuck around to see if they've actually used it and maintained it, and they're getting some benefit from it. So we have loads of value in that space.
I fully agree with that, and I think your big time is already here, because if I look, and it's no secret, if I look what we earn money, my company and the companies I know, that, for example, the part that, or the share that actually IT related tasks, like in SAP world, like the ABAP stuff and so on, make up in the revenue that we do, is going smaller and smaller and smaller. Like we are around something, and I talked to other companies in the last months and so on. We had interesting discussions, and same for them too. Like we are in a revenue share at about 20-25% anymore, not more. We're going down, and the rest is transformations, consulting, processes, changed, and so on. And the fun thing is that, especially in the sales process, the change part becomes more and more important, because with money now, with dump money not really existing anymore, but money being tight and budgets being tight, and people and companies really feeling the urge with some outside pressure coming in with disruptions. It's not like 5 years ago where the motivation was for most people, okay, we have to change platforms because SAP will change the support or will run out the support in 2027. But now it's, hey, the world is changing and we have to find the right answers and we need the right tools and we need the right antidote and weapons for it. Then you have high interest in that the tools you are implied or you are implementing to work against that actually make sense and actually bring the horsepower to the street. And that's exactly where change management is coming in. Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely on the up. Like I said, there's a lot more independents out there that are doing well, consistently doing well as well. I'm really pleased with how we're performing. I think it's getting there. I think it's exciting. I think a lot of what we're seeing at the moment, even around change in the AI space, even changing more historical digital transformation programs, it's got more of a presence. I think it's exciting. I mean, I just love my industry. I think it's great. I think what we do not just adds real value from a strategic point of view, financial point of view, but from that people on the ground perspective. If you've got somebody communicating that story, explaining the narrative, taking you through that journey, then you're going to be more engaged with it. And I personally think it should be done differently as well. So we don't follow a very dry model of consultancy where we'll do a town hall and then workshops every week. I try and bring the human to what we do. So, we're all about engaging on a very personal level, possibly getting out the office, having cake, lots of it, just making that engagement personal because we're all humans.
Yeah.
And I think that's that old fashioned school of consultancy is drying up. I really do believe that, certainly from a change perspective. I've gone behind some of the larger consultancies. They're still operating the same model they operated 20 years ago. And people aren't interested. They know you're going to come in. They know you're going to try and upsell. They know that actually I could be paying senior prices for a junior. They know all these things now. People are much more clued up. They want somebody who's a partner, who's an actual, you have a partnership, a relationship with. And I think that's incredibly important. And that's the biggest shift I've seen in the past 25, 30 years. And I love it. That it's actually, they don't just want someone to come in and go, tell us how to do anything. They want a partner to collaborate with and work with.
Yeah. I think the topic of that things have to move forward, processes have to change, the way we work with technology has to change, and so on. It is not really new. We already force people upon this kind of transformation changes, of course, now since decades. And we are asking a lot of them in most of the cases, which we definitely should mention. But do you feel, especially when we're now coming again, saying like, listen, the next big thing is coming out now, with the AI thing and so on. And this is, I think, one of the hardest disruptions that mankind probably ever has encountered with.
Yeah.
Do you have the feeling that this huge, biggest disruption of them all is now coming onto people who have been questioned and asked for the last 20 years again to change and change and change and change all the time, and have a certain, let's say, fatigue upon them concerning change.
Yeah.
And now it's asked to them, you have to jump even farther. Do you find these kinds of situations, and how do you cope with that?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked in some very heavy regulated industries where they're going through changes for that. At the same time, they're going through technology changes, trying to upgrade platforms, et cetera, As you say, licenses are running out, so there's that emergency towards it, and people are fatigued. I think my personal opinion is that you've got to change your approach because it is ongoing. There's always something. There's always something new. We know that, particularly at the moment. The way I think it should be pitched now is within an organization is instead of going, the next thing's coming. Well done. We've got through that blood, sweat and tears.
Yeah.
We should be pitching it like, I don't know, I'll give you an analogy here. Think of it like a Marvel movie. Okay. You've just watched the biggest Marvel movie, right? At the end, they give you a teaser. That's what you should be doing with teams. You should be going, this could be coming up and this could be awesome. This could be brilliant. You could use this in a multitude of ways. We're only just starting to look at it. Rather than going, well done, you've done that. Now I'm going to make you do something else. I think it's pitching and framing. And I think that's where change management professionals, what we're good at, it's a psychology of change. Yeah.
As long as you're not using Avengers Endgame.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm not going to mention the multiverse, but
exactly.
Yeah, But it's the way things are framed and pitched. I think
Yeah.
that's one of my biggest learnings over the years is
Mm.
we don't frame things well. We're
Yeah.
so looking through these corporate binoculars
Mhm.
at what we have to do, and we've ticked that box. Let's move to that box, and let's move, and so on and so forth. We're not stopping to think about how we translate that message.
Yeah.
And for Joe or Margaret or Sue or whoever's working on the ground floor, they need that translating to them. They don't
Yeah.
want to hear 10 days later something else massive's coming. They should hear when at the same time the leaders are thinking about it.
Yeah.
Good leadership teams will share. Good leadership teams who know how to look after their employees will go, so just throwing this out there, we're thinking of this. It's really good, really exciting. Be positive, be upbeat, rather than being very old school corporate. Right, you've got your ERP system in. Now we're going to put another CRM system in over here. And those times I think have passed. Everything
Yeah.
should be much more collaborative now, especially after COVID.
Absolutely. And we shouldn't underestimate users, because in so many cases they are, especially in these change areas, in an environment where the one side, like their bosses and the consultants and the tech people, they're approaching them and say like, oh, the chances are limitless and so on. Everything is great. Look at what's possible now. And then next day they are sitting together with their SAP users group, and what they get from there as feedback is, we are all going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's like in politics. People have I think
Yeah.
quite good sensors when they
Yeah.
are bullshitted. You
Yeah.
can talk it like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
should not do it like that way, because
No.
then the resistance is coming up. And I would like to hear what your opinion is, but my opinion always was we should not bullshit people. We should, of course, talk about, look, these are the positive options that we have, but we should be also very open about what this means. The moment you're open and honest about things, you get the buy-in easier. When you're not, let's say, ignore problems or talk them away and so on, people will respond quite heavily on that. Definitely.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. Open and honest. That's
Yeah.
it. If you're open, honest, transparent, and you work with people rather than against people, there's much more chance of it being successful. The most successful transformation programs I've been on are where people act like that, and they are honest and they are open. We don't know everything. There may be some, we have a plan. We expect it to go off plan, because it usually does. But we're being very honest and transparent about that. People will be far more responsive to that than they will. We have a plan, we're sticking to it, we're rigid. This is when you're going live. Absolutely not changing, not changing, not changing. Just be honest and say it could. This is how projects and programs work. And if you've got people on the ground floor that don't understand projects and programs, take time out for them. Explain it, demonstrate it. Because that's another thing as well. We naturally presume that, I don't know, Dave in a call center knows how a project runs.
Yeah.
He might not have a clue.
Yeah.
So I think that's another misconception as well in the workplaces in general. And there's quite a lot of organizations make that mistake. You presume, no matter how far down the chain you go, they know what a project is, they know what a program is. Some of them might not, especially as new generations come in. And so I think it's really important you explain what a project is, what a program is, how they operate typically, the people involved typically, what it looks like, how it's going to feel, how we'd really love you to be involved. And that's the kind of approach I think should be taken. Too many organizations, certainly historically, going back to my very early days in Korea, when there was somebody sat up in an office high up smoking a cigar, and he'd be absolutely terrified if he had to go to his office. They didn't communicate. They didn't think they needed to. They were above all that. Well, now you do, because now humans want to be treated with respect, want to be talked to.
If you look into the opposite direction of communications, when, for example, users, clients, customers, and so on, who are about to embark this kind of change journey, and you are working with them, at least from my perspective, my experience, quite often they may endorse the change intellectually, but psychologically, then they refuse. And I remember, for example, one case which was quite interesting. It was 20 years ago too. Somebody who greeted me quite enthusiastically, like, "Hey, yeah, you great to have you here, because we really have to do things differently," and so on and so on. And I thought, like, oh, probably he's going to be my best friend in this project. Yeah. Turned out he was the one who was just one blink short of threatening to soak himself with gasoline and sets himself on fire if we change anything of what we have discussed there. Do you see this pattern quite often? And how do I recognize in my job those probably who need a little bit more love and distinguish them for them who probably have gotten the message easier?
That's a brilliant question. I think, do you know what? You'd be surprised. I think throughout my career, the most times I've found that, unlike yourself, was actually I found it with leaders. Leaders who have gone, oh, change. Absolutely. We know what change management is. Yeah, we need you in. Yeah, change is managing the change is so important. So pleased to hear. Get cracking. Go do some beautiful stuff with the people, and you never see them again. Or they don't really like your suggestions when you tell them they need to perhaps change the way they operate, how they communicate, how they engage. That, honestly, if I had £1 for every time that happened, I probably wouldn't need to be working now. And then on the other hand, the ones that I really love are when you're sat in a room and you know, because someone's already given you a heads up, you're walking into someone who's grumpy, mean, doesn't like what you're doing, thinks they can do it better, sat through 30 implementations, all of them were crap, he hated every single one, and he's gonna tell you what he thinks or she thinks, and you sit there and you change their mind. That's the beauty. That's like one of the moments in change management you just love.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the most important actions in a project itself, because from my experience, quite often those people who are also often very outspoken and as such, of course, have, let's say, dominant position in the social structure, for example, of a department and so on. If you manage to get them on your side, it may take, of course, some time, longer than others, but they're like a tanker. Yeah, when you are able to move their course into a different direction, when they are moving into a different direction, in their backdraft, they're pulling all the people with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when he thinks and he endorses it and he thinks this is great, I'm in too. Because then it cannot be bad. And for me, always the biggest success was when exactly those kind of people who were in the beginning were full on resisting basically everything, were talking then about their project, their initiative, their system, and so on. Yeah, definitely the most.
Yeah, so in my head, I'm thinking of scenarios, and there's a few years back now, I worked in this one particular environment, a lot of change fatigue, a lot of change saturation, and there was a guy in a meeting room, and he sat there, arms crossed at the back, just waiting for his time. And we're talking about how we're going to approach change management, usual kind of stuff. And he sat there, and he went, well, and he just went, and he just absolutely went. And what was interesting was throughout a lot of what he was saying, was kind of perhaps not that important. He just liked the sound of his own voice. There was a couple of things he said I genuinely agreed with. Their experience previously with other people, whoever they were, big or large consultancies, was not good. And therefore, there was this sort of inherent fear that they had, and he was worried about his teams. And I literally said, like, I agree with you. And as soon as I said, I agree with you, he changed his whole presence and structure. He came out and they'd had a really bad experiences with consultancies previously, whatever they looked like, big or small.
That happens.
Yeah. And
indeed.
And I think what happened was when he was talking, some of it was just to hear his own voice, because he was one of those very, had to be important people. But he said a couple of things I genuinely agreed with. So I went, I agree with you. And he looked horrified and shocked.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I genuinely agree with you. That if you heard otherwise from other people, they were wrong. I agree with you. And I think it was simple things around, he was concerned about his team and how they were being treated and the demands on them.
Which are all valid things, especially from those people. You do not get the beautified version quite often, but the actual truth about the mechanics and the thing that happens.
So I just said, I absolutely agree with you. This is how it is. And Mr. Grumpy was sat at the back like that, all of a sudden opened his arms and was more engaged with the whole conversation.
Perfect. And quite often those are the people who are like that because quite often nobody listens to them.
Yeah.
In many cases. That's why they react to these things. They don't react in the first year of business, in the first year of professional service there. But they become that because nobody listens to them. in most
Yeah,
of the cases.
there used to be and I'm going back some time now, and I'm gonna presume you and I are the same age. Apologies if I'm older, but back in when I was
We will find that out.
yeah, back long time ago, many like when I was a kid, kind of time, there was particularly in the UK, unions were very prevalent, and there was a union leader, and he'd
Yeah.
be quite the loud one, and he'd want to make himself heard, stuck his chest out, interfered in meetings, caused trouble. Actually, a lot of the time, those people that I've met recently who have that same sort of demeanor just want to be heard and just want to be listened to. And actually, the more that, organizations used to fight those kind of people, the more they kind of gave them room to speak and be a power within an organization. Actually, what you need to do is just agree on the commonalities and the things and the way forward. And it's an interesting thing, but this is what I love about change. It's people, personalities, dynamics, psychology. I love, it's all juicy stuff.
And you said something very important about our society itself, because since in any cases, be it political topics or private topics, and so we concentrate on those things that divide us. Yeah, and then of course things get heated and not really results oriented and so on. And probably what you said, one important part of change management is to agree on the things you can agree instead of just fighting those things where you maybe not on the same boat, definitely.
Yeah.
We were talking about, let's say, something like change fatigue. And when you look today in news outlets and so on, you find out that in some companies, people at the moment are actually sabotaging AI, like feeding them with stupid information to make the results coming out of AI actually worse, because since they were afraid that AI would in the end take away their job from them. Do you see a task in change management in this case?
Yeah, I think well, that's the irony, is that change fatigue is more popular than change management.
Yeah.
It's more prevalent, I should say. Not
exactly.
Popular, it's more prevalent. Change fatigue is more prevalent than change management, which is bonkers. It shouldn't be. I that concept itself, I think, it says a lot about humanity. I think for me, AI, the change based on AI, but it's a different type of change. And again, it's for me when we launched our company, it was all about taking it back to that simple concept of supporting people in the workplace. So it doesn't matter what it is. It's about supporting people in the workplace. AI is another thing to support them through in the workplace. A very different approach, in my opinion, needs to be taken. It needs to be more collaborative. It needs to be much more of a team effort. What we talked about earlier about the openness, transparency, honesty has to be much more on the table. I think it's exciting. I think because it will give people in an organization a chance to really shine light upon themselves where they haven't before. So I'm all for this culture of let people play with it. And if they develop something that will add value to the organization, fantastic. Yeah. So I think there's a real opportunity with it. I don't think it's anywhere near the capability it could be. I think it's still very much just a tool that very much depends on its inputs from us as end users. We're certainly not looking at Terminator or 2001 Space Odyssey just yet. It's much more around a very simplistic tool that can, you hear, obviously we all hear horror stories, right? But then I'm going back to the generational thing again. I grew up with movies where AI was in a movie before AI was out.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing to think about. When you're working with people, particularly in change management, you're working with people that have preconceived ideas. They saw 2001 Space Odyssey.
Exactly.
I go. Well, did you see Short Circuit? That was a great film. That was AI.
Take data from Star Trek Next Generation.
Exactly. So I think there's a lot of preconceptions there about what AI is, and actually what AI is currently is just a very clever tool. I'll pay more attention when what we hear about actually becomes mainstream. The stuff that happens in the background. At the moment, what is available to us as public, and I also find it frustrating. I'm going to ask you a question and throw it back on you here. So I get frustrated with all these emails I get from people, all these messages in my inbox, LinkedIn, going, "We've got this tool in AI that can do this for you. It can do that. It can lead generation, all that crap." I get so much of that. Like, if it could, I'd use it myself. If I thought it could do that, there is nothing. I've not seen anything on the market I'm presuming you guys must get that as well. All these people offering to support you and help you. Actually, I'd like to think you and I are relatively smart guys. We could go and find what we need to help us do that lead generation or whatever. I don't even work that way. So I rely on stupid marketing and PR, as you may have gathered.
Yeah.
So it's like it just that kind of drives me a bit mad. And I know we're going to talk about LinkedIn later, which is one of the things that drives me mad about LinkedIn. So yeah, I get.
But it's a valid point. Yeah, it's like a Wild West topic at the moment, and everybody is using it for, let's say, for himself. And they are the one, like you said, who want to make business. And I guess like a lot of these kind of tools that people offer are absolutely. But there are, of course, all those people who see this as a chance to make money or get attention and so on. And how do you get attention in our social media world? Yeah, with being noisy. And then we are again in this kind of hysteria thing with, on the one hand, you have those people who are saying like, oh, this is just, let's say, another tool. And then you have also, of course, these kind of people who say like, okay, AI will kill us and so on.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you are in social media with weird things and weird videos attached each time with now robots running marathons and so on, being faster. And everybody thinks like, Jesus, if somebody would have give them a gun.
Yeah.
And then of course, people get afraid and get scared. And I think that's absolutely understandable. But that's why I think change management is so important, especially in a world now where we are so fully engaged also in corporate propaganda. And I call it like this because
agreed.
These kinds of oversimplified messages, marketing induced messages you find in any corporate environment. And I listen to a lot of people telling me like, also from them, from corporate, from tech companies saying like, we used to have two kind of different conversations, like to the outside, of course, which was a little marketing induced, but to the inside was, of course, a little bit more bits and bytes. Like, okay, this works, this does not work. We have to be careful with that. We're not far enough yet. But now the people are getting used that communication to the inside is also done with marketing slides. So whenever somebody comes in, like me or you and so on, and we're doing a project or initiatives and so on, you of course quite easily put into that direction of like skepticism and so, come on, he's not telling the truth anymore. He's there to do certain things and so on. So maybe I guess the really induced change is now even more difficult than it used to be, because the trust issues to somebody going in there saying like, hey, I'm from change management. Are you going to tell me what I'm going to do now? Maybe.
You're going to deliver some comms and training. You're going to do a bit of comms training. And that is hard. I just want to mention, because I didn't earlier, I was quite flippant in the way I talked about people with AI. There are some very, very intelligent people that do very, very intelligent things far beyond me with AI, but you don't see them. They're busy doing what they do in their own space. It's the ones that are there and are prevalent and using it for marketing, and we can do this for you, triple your leads. Those are the ones that I find annoying. But going back to that, you're absolutely right. There is a preconception sometimes, not everywhere, but in a lot of places I've worked over the years, depending on their previous experience, where they will go, you're just going to, have a few workshops, tell us what we're supposed to do a bit of comms, bit of training. I mean, a lot of leaders for a very long time, that's all they thought we were. A combination of comms and training.
Exactly.
And then as soon as we started going, well, no, we're actually taking feedback, understanding the individuals, we're actually understanding groups, we can relay what teams are feeling, we can put countermeasures in, and then all of a sudden, oh no, I thought you were comms and training. It's all a bit scary. And then come a budget cut, first thing to go is change, because they don't really understand it.
And one difficulty that you may have is in contrast to other consultants who, when they leave, in the best case, may leave back a system, or others may leave behind some slides, but you do not do anything of that. In the end, you are leaving behind capabilities. But how does somebody who works in change management in the end really measure his success in that case, so he can use this for other initiatives?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think just to demonstrate our worth, it's about, I mentioned earlier around whether you go live, somebody turns it on, but they might not necessarily use it going forward, or they'll try and revert back to type or whatever. I think our success is built around that adoption. It's around if you want to use people's happiness as a metric, That's kind of where change management is. We support people. We make it smoother. How many times do you have to stall? Do you have to retrain? Get it all right first time with us supporting. Making sure that engagement level is strong and high and people understand and are communicated to. I think, it's really obvious, because if you don't have us around and you don't have those things in place, and as you say, you'll have a project manager go, I can do that because I did a ProSci course for 3 days. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, no, dude, you don't. It's like they will try and they will fail. Because with change management, I said this before many times. I know there's a few people out there that agree with me. It's almost like a calling. You want to help people in the workplace. You see there's a natural gap, that somebody is missing something, and that typically is around communication engagement. And you go, well, as a change person, I can fill that gap and make this successful. But I think it's really hard. Metrics has always been a difficult thing for change management to evidence what we do. I think a lot of it is around adoption. A lot of it is around continued ways of working. Again, do you have to spend and go retrain, that kind of thing? And just general business flow. I think if you look at it from a more strategic level, are you still flowing at the same level? Are you still performing the same way? Or has your performance dropped? Quite often when it drops, it's not about the system. It's about the people using the system.
Yeah.
And I think they forget that, and that's why, putting in a SAP or putting in Oracle or putting in whatever, the first thing they'll do is go, even leaders will go, system's crap. Oh, no, hey, it's crap. It's not. It's not being used the right way, or it hasn't been adopted because nobody's taken time to explain it or nobody's walked through it. So, all these things are probably very familiar to a lot of people, listening to this and that worked in our world.
And what you say, I once had this argument in a discussion when I was working at SAP 10 years ago, and I was saying, like, listen, in the end, we will be measured, or our success of SAP, of the company, will be measured in not what we accomplished in crazy pitches, but actually what people are using.
Yeah.
How this really changed their
Yeah.
lives and so on in a certain way. And if we develop something that nobody uses, this does not exist, basically. It just exists out there, what people are actually using. So do you think that good change management, or the focus on change management, should not just, let's say, lay in the normal responsibilities of consultancies, but also the big tech companies should take more of that, because it's in the end about their systems that we're talking, and their tools?
Yeah. I mean, for what I will say, Alexander, is for any big tech company listening who'd like a partner in change management so you can make sure you deliver it right, hello, here I am. But I do. I think there needs to be that realization that it is a people-led implementation, whatever it is you do.
Yeah.
It's driven and controlled and supported and successful depending upon people. It's there's no other way about it. I think so. Yeah, I think there should be. I think there needs to be a realization at all levels throughout an organization that managing change, however you do that, however you choose to do that, is so important. And one of the biggest things we do is we talk about what is the benefit to you as a team. The people who are using it. That is a really important narrative. Show them the benefits of why you're doing it. How's it going to help you? And a lot of time, people don't measure those benefits, or they don't stick around to see if they'll come to fruition. Project managers, program managers, go live. See you later. Packing my bags. I'm off. So
but shouldn't people like you then be more involved in technology development itself? Like having somebody like change management, giving input already, how systems, how software, how technology is actually invented or produced or programmed or whatever, with more focus on that people are actually able to get the best out of it. Because whenever you talk about usability, in the end, you end at the UI guy, the guy for the user interface. And he is maybe, if he's very modern and so on, he is thinking with graphics and these kinds of things. And if he's more old fashioned, he thinks in tables and stuff like that, and radio buttons. And this is the kind of discussion.
Yeah. No, you're right.
He's leading, But in the end, change management should already start in the development.
The most successful programs and projects, in my opinion, are the ones that have us there from the very beginning. It's as simple as that. Because straight away, before you've even, sometimes even before you've even chosen your product, to get a feeling of what's going on in the workplace before that happens can really add value. You can
Mhm.
find out where the disruptions are, where there's challenges, where people are fatigued, where there's stress, whatever. You could be looking at, you could have a team with performance reviews, that are not great and you're struggling. So there's all these things to take into account. So before you roll anything out, do it like a check. Get somebody in who works in change to understand the lay of the land. Come back with this is what you look like as a culture, behaviours,
Yeah.
and this is what be prepared. You're launching this into them, and you could do
Mhm.
like heat maps around who needs more care than others, etc. But yeah, get people like me and change professionals in early, so that we can get in and get the lay of the land and help with that more smoother approach to the actual delivering of the message before you even show the product.
What would be then the 3 most important best practices that a company leader who is embarking his organization in a transformation should do concerning change management? Or what kind of best practices would be valid
Yeah, I
from
mean,
a change management perspective?
well, three things that I think are quite unusual. So, firstly, get somebody in right at the beginning,
Mm.
because you need to understand your culture before you launch anything or do anything, and that will help. Secondly, I think give that person a seat at the table and let them stay at the top of the table, as well as going down and doing the groundwork and engaging with the teams. Make sure they're heard. So, a change professional, if they're in the organisation, has to be heard. And then the last thing is, if there are any challenges throughout the program or project, don't let change be the first thing to go. I could
Mm.
give you a list of other people who probably should go before change.
Yeah.
So it's those three things. If you're going to really invest in change management and you believe in it, and I've worked on programs where I've had amazing directors who have absolutely believed in it, and they've had you in right at the very beginning, and it's great because you can roll your sleeves up and get stuck in. You've been at that top table, so you are heard. Your opinion is valued. That's
Mhm.
quite honestly working in change. You'd be surprised how much that doesn't happen. So to be valued is a tremendous thing. And then lastly, if you do have problems, you do have issues, don't look at change, because change is keeping your people straight while you manage these other problems.
Mm.
So for me, they're the most important things. Good practice, and then there's little things in between. Just support them, help them. I remember work this again, same director. If I had an idea, it would never be thrown out. It'd be like, okay, how can we make this work? Let's see if we can do this. Let's see if we can do something around this. And there's nothing greater for a change professional than us to feel heard and valued. That's all we want. We want to help the people. Sorry, that's my phone going off. Sounds like a TARDIS. Yeah,
I thought there was this kind of
yeah, yeah,
dog stepping into your room.
yeah. So for me, the biggest thing is for us as an industry is just value us. We
Yeah.
do genuinely make a big difference.
And this is basically where it closes the circle, yeah, when you talk about change management as the area that generates value. In the end, of course, has to also to be seen as something like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not as just some, let's say, esoteric, he's talking with the folks there. Different topic, looking at the watch, because we wanted to talk about another topic too. You do not have very valid opinions, but you also communicate them very well. And this is basically how we met, because I felt about your things when I say, hey, it's not always something, he's not just telling things that are right, but he's telling them these kind of stories in a very entertaining way, so that actually I also understand what he's talking about. And especially in our LinkedIn world, where we are overflown by cheap attention-seeking, let's say, topics and so on, this is quite valuable. Do you agree that LinkedIn is the most serious place on earth?
Yes, and no. So, God, my relationship with LinkedIn, it's a weird one. We have. I'm sure this is probably a conversation. It'd be great over beer. This conversation.
Or
I
even
love
something heavier?
I started. So when I first started on LinkedIn, I was around 2007. I don't know when you first came on board, but I was about 2007.
Much later.
Okay, and it was when I was on there. It was a very straight-laced corporate
Mhm.
place. It was not what it is now.
Yeah.
It was far from it. It was, and I only followed like 2 or 3 people that were in change management. I found them interesting. They had different perspectives, and I kind of kept my head down. And then for years, just kind of dipped in and out. It was never a really important tool or anything to me. I did use it for contracting purposes. So it helped me get a number of contracts back in the day when I was freelancing, just by linking in with recruiters. And then it sort of grows and grows into this beast. Now it's kind of like, I don't know, it's a weird thing now. There's a lot of garbage on there, I think, and I'm sure you agree, of just, it's this advertising around, as I said, the marketing advertising around AI and all the rest of it, and leads and all the rest of it. There's some really cool stuff that I like. So when I fell out, I'm going to go a bit, when I fell out of love with change management, which I did, probably about 5-6 years ago now, I fell out of love with it because everything I was seeing on LinkedIn and on websites and people's media was boring. It was dull. It was repetitive. It was the same. So when I went onto LinkedIn, I actually started looking at other things that just interested me and entertained me. So I found a guy in marketing who was funny. He's probably the first funny person on LinkedIn. There was some organizations, enterprise organizations, that were talking like humans, and they weren't being corporate. It was like a chat, and it was funny chat. And I was looking at all these things. And I was like, I work in an industry where people are the most important thing. Why aren't we doing this?
Yeah.
So when I finally convinced my wife that I wanted to launch my own thing, and she was like, God, you're going to do it your way, aren't you? It's like, yeah, because I want to use all that stuff, because why wouldn't I? It's part of my makeup anyway, as you've probably gathered. So I thought, right, okay, I'm gonna do it. So everything is purposeful. For me, it has to have three things. So I have to resonate. So there has to be something in there that is personal to me that hopefully somebody will connect with, because it'll be their experience as well. And in change, that's quite easy. That's not too bad to do. If I can be informative, even if it's just a bit of advice, whatever that looks like. And then third is I want to be funny if I can, which is actually harder to do. Honestly, it's harder. And now that I've found kind of that's my secret sauce, it's kind of it's a lot of pressure I've put on myself. And I live on LinkedIn far too much. Honestly, my wife hates it. She only lets me get away with it because she knows it's so vital to my company and what I do.
Yeah, it can be definitely a huge waste of time. But on the other hand, because in my love and hate relationship, like as you said, I started probably much later, and I had this account for a few years without really using it and so on. But from a certain point, of course, I realized that, especially my business, it's not enough if you just, let's call it, do good things, but you also have to talk about it. It is like this.
Yeah.
And of course, when you talk with people about things like that, you of course get quite often the reaction, Anna, I do not want really to put myself in the foreground and so on, which is absolutely valid. And you may be surprised, I'm also one of these guys who normally are quite happy when they're not standing in the front line.
You do some great posts. I am surprised. I'm surprised because you do.
Yeah, but on the other hand, this is part of my contradicting personality. I have strong opinions.
Are you an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert?
Yeah, probably both. Yeah, but in the end, it's all about you just get your topics across. Yeah, when you dress down, get on the stage and say, hey, listen, guys, it's like this, and gals, yeah. And that's also why I started, for example, the podcast, or my first podcast back then, when I saw like the topics that I thought were important, or the lessons learned, or the best practices are not public enough. They're not known enough, and so on. So for me, it's some kind of, let's say, educational spirit that came through, because I wanted to see my learnings, of course, help other people, for example. And that's why I started all this part. Of course, on LinkedIn, you are in hard competition for awareness. And there are, of course, different ways to cope with that. And there are, of course, people who are, and by the way, let me add something. LinkedIn is not a fair place. The algorithm is a bitch. We have to be sure about this. And it's unfair, and content does not get a quality content. Good people with good stuff does not get the attention they deserve generally. So those people with good content, I think they have to up their game in that way. That, for example, humor can be a very good carrier for this, to get the attention for their topics that actually deserves it. And of course, if you just do some silly stuff, then it's silly stuff without any But you do it the same. You have the funny eye catcher, and then the good content comes. And I think this is quite a good way to get noticed and to be unique and to get people's awareness for the things and help them, of course, to learn and communicate this against all the other, let's say, slush that is populating LinkedIn with stuff where you say like, okay, there may be other platforms for them, but that's not basically where I want to see them.
I absolutely agree with you. I think so. Obviously, I also do what I do, and I think it goes without saying, because I need that presence in my industry. Like, I'm not stupid. I'm small and I'm going up against big boys, and girls. I know I am. So the way I do that is by being loud, and I can say things they can't say. And I know I can get away with murder. They can't. The other thing is that, it's for particularly my industry with change management, we have a community, and I love that we have a community, and I love that. And I have to say that whilst LinkedIn has been fantastic and it's helped me get jobs and win contracts and lots of things, and I rely very heavily on PR and marketing. One of the most beautiful things I genuinely like about it is that thing I said earlier about trying to resonate is when I get a little message in my inbox, or even if it's written down below in the comments where somebody goes, "That helped me today," or "Thank you, I feel the same way," or I've even said to people that I've built relationships up with that if there's something they want to get off their chest that they can't, tell me and I'll do a post about it, because I'm quite fearless with it. I don't care, and I've done that for people. So I think it is the algorithm thing, though, is an absolute. It really is a bitch, and it really is hard. They're obviously, I think, designing it so that everything becomes a pay for visibility type scenario. I've just wrote to them, actually. I've just written to LinkedIn, asked to go to the London offices. I want to meet them. I want to know how it works. I want to get under the bonnet of what goes on LinkedIn. So I'm still waiting to hear. They're probably thinking, not that madman. But I want to know. So it's been a beautiful thing. Considering it's just an application, it's done wonders for me in my career and life. But it is just an application. It's just an app.
Fully agree with that. And I think that's an important thing when it was a few years ago when somebody made really, I know he really wrote a rant about, hey, I'm sick and tired of what I see in my news feed and I'm quitting. And in the end, we have to be fair because you are responsible for your own news feed. When you are sick and tired of seeing certain things, you can change that. If there's always one or two weird people who are liking things and as such they are coming to you, then unfollow them. You do not need those guys.
We've had this conversation before. So it's like the keyboard warrior conversation.
Exactly.
I was telling you. So basically, I know, and it's happened to me several times. There are people either reaching the end of their career or are retired who go on LinkedIn purely to have an argument.
Yeah, that's true.
And they it's like that. Oh, I've had my coffee. I've had me toast. I'm going to go on LinkedIn and have a bit of a row with someone, and that's what they do. And it's bonkers. And I've been victim to that a couple of times. But
never argue with people.
No.
Indeed, that's not pure waste of time.
I always find there's two approaches to people when they argue with me. So either I will write a post about them and make it quite clear that it's about them, just because or I will go back with something very ludicrous, ridiculous, something where they just can't make sense of it. And then they go, I can't talk to you. I'm like, that's okay. That's fine. Don't type anymore. Yeah, it's fine. So, but I think you and I have both experienced people who are like that, who are keyboard warriors who like to just argue for no reason. It's just crazy.
People who see your posts, and of course you have quite many followers, probably would like to know from you, how do you get these kind of big airtime, big attention, and so on, also for their topics. So what would be the topics and the best practices that you would advise them to do?
Sure. First of all, I'm going to start with, and I hope it comes as no surprise, quite often I get mental blocks. It's really hard, honestly, it's really hard trying to be funny. So best practices, I mean, I when I first started, I guess I kind of went with, I wanted to go with a shock value, but not crude or vulgar.
Rage and so on. Exactly.
So I wanted to go with ridiculously funny. And see how that landed. that's kind of that was my starting point. And then the continuation was become louder. Like I say, I was fully aware when I was launching on my own that I was going to be competing with some very large consultancies, big organizations. So the only way I was going to beat them in terms of being noticed and a potential competition in some sort of way was by people going, I see his stuff all the time, or I see Change Rebellion all the time.
Yeah.
So, and that was the purpose, and that's never changed. And to this day, I continue. I think for me, it is the magic is the way I try. I know that sounds too egotistical. I think it's just what I want people to not just think that's clever. I want them to go, that's me.
Yeah. Be unique. Be yourself.
Be yourself. You know, what
Exactly.
I've been through over almost 30 years, millions of people have been through.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that rather than trying to be smart. And you don't have to talk about the latest. Occasionally I talk about AI, of course I do. But you don't have to talk about the latest. You know, I know one particular group of change management professionals who do nothing but talk about AI. You know, that's all their posts are now. Every single post. That's fine if that's the way they want to go, but I don't. I still want to connect with people who work in my industry. And because they're the people that have supported me. You know, those numbers have grown because one change management's gone to another change manager. You see Mark's post, that was funny. I did that.
Yeah.
Or that's how it works, or how I think it works. Don't get me wrong, I've got a backstory that has helped as well. You know, COVID, being ill and all the rest of it. No need to go through all that again. But that helped as well because that just made me more human, I think. I think people just went, he's a normal bloke. He doesn't just do funny posts all the time. He's actually been through something, and also a love for what you do. I have a genuine love for my industry. And I think whatever people say about me, whether they think I'm a dick or not, they will know that I genuinely love change management. And I think it's such a worthwhile industry.
You definitely can see that when looking at your posts that you love your business. But you said something very important. I think the most important thing is that actually be yourself. Okay, that can be sometimes a disadvantage, but in the end, it's all about be not a slave for the algorithm.
No.
I think that's the most important thing, because you see that so often when these algorithm reports come out and things are in there. Now do carousels, and everybody's doing carousels, and now ask these questions in the end. These kinds of engagement bait questions, and so everybody does that, and so on. It's so cringy, because there's this kind of word like LinkedIn cringe, where it's so obvious that this post is not there because you want to give value to other people, because you want to explain something to them, because there is something important that you think that could be of value to somebody else, and that's a motivation for your post. But your motivation is just pure dopamine and attention, and so on. This is something which, at least in my opinion, it's so transparent in many cases. So don't follow these kind of trends with that you, to be honest, in most of the cases, when I tried out these kind of best practice, like post immediately after this and that happened, I, to be honest, never saw any difference. And those posts that in the end went viral were not viral from my side, that I followed the route because I just hit the nail on the head concerning a certain topic, where everybody said like, hey, this is from the content, from how you present it and so on, this is it. This is 100% what's true. And this is in the end what helps. So do not imitate others by making selfies like you are on Instagram or wherever, because I'm not interested. They're so backfiring in many positions. I saw a post recently where a woman, she was talking about that she had to fire somebody and so on, and she had to be tough and everything. And the photo and the visual to it was a selfie of her in a party environment at the beach, sipping some cocktail. And I'm not really sure if that's the way you want to come across, to be honest.
No, I agree, mate. I think I almost treat LinkedIn as a bit of a game now. So when it pushes a new algorithm out, things change. I almost see it as like, I've got to beat it. And I'll do that by doing a little bit more off the wall than I typically would. Or I'll go a bit further than I typically would, just to see if I can beat the algorithm.
Let's get the algorithm mad.
But it's, I recommend it. Everybody should do it. Just fight back. but I do, and I mean it's so funny. You know, you and I have obviously been doing it so long now. Some of the things you think will be a hit
Yeah.
absolutely aren't, and some of the things
No,
that you think that's never going to land
exactly.
go crazy. And so what
Absolutely.
you know, as an example, right? And it makes me laugh. So a lot of my posts, I can be a little bit risky. And my wife's trained in law, and she has
Mm.
occasionally, on occasion, said, "You can't post that. That's too dangerous." Um, Outside of this podcast, I'll show you one of them. I was never allowed to post it, but I I find that you know, I put one up. I don't do politics on LinkedIn either. Stay
Yeah.
away from politics and religion
Yeah.
because it just
Yeah.
don't do it. The only thing I did remotely political the other week, and it was just because it made me laugh, and I'm so sad, Alex. I
Mhm.
really am sad. A lot of my posts are because they make me laugh. I was when there was the Mark Green denied that he looked like the changing Messiah. And it was like me as Jesus, but with 3 arms, because it was
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that was kind of a little bit topical, um, but
But but people get triggered by everything. I recently
I do.
posted something about a mock, sometimes a little bit about, let's say, some conservative attitudes toward very technical stuff, on-prem implementations, where you think like your system has to be basically in your basement at your full control and should not be in the cloud. And I wrote something about it was a fun thing about people take security very, very, very important, but in the end, in most of the cases, their on-prem base looks much more messy than they would probably agree to. And then I posted a picture of really a server room, which was pure horror.
I remember, yes, I remember that one, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And I know somebody. He's very, very outspoken, and he wants to be in control of everything. And he even made a post about this post of mine and so on, and how much he disagrees with that. So he's not really was talking about the topic itself, but more about the visual in a certain way. But to be fair, yes, sometimes probably we overstepping some boundaries also in that kind of struggle for attention. But I think
Yeah,
we should take it as it is. It's a social media thing, and you probably should not take everything 100%
no,
serious.
no,
Yeah.
and I think if people have, particularly with you and I, 'cause I like I say, I followed you for a long time, I really enjoy your posts. I think, if you follow someone for long enough, you can see what they're like. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
that's just
Exactly.
them, you know? People
Yeah.
look at my stuff, "That's Mark." You know, people look at your stuff, go, "That's Alex." And I think,
He just wants to play.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he doesn't buy it. He just wants to
No,
play.
yeah, yeah. Maybe some of the big consultancies occasionally, but yeah,
Okay,
um,
can happen.
yeah, it can happen. But yeah, on the whole, it's just for fun, and I think, like I say, for me, the biggest thing is, you know, it helps with my business. It
Mm,
helps that I've got a wonderful group of people, you
yeah.
know, like global as well. That's what gets me, and I think that's what I've been amazed with over the past few years. Is it's like a global network in particularly
Yeah.
in change management, and of just really really nice people who I've had. You know, my wife would be like, "Can you do the school run today?" I go, "No, I'm talking to someone in
Yeah.
Australia." Or, you know, I've talked to people all over the world, and that is an absolute delight for me. I
Absolutely.
love that. So it can
Still,
be a brilliant thing.
yeah, and still the possibilities are so big because people are absolutely underusing it. And
Yeah,
I had this discussion lately with a wonderful young, highly, extremely talented young professional I'm mentoring, and she, Christina, I'm talking about you, and she has so many stories to tell that she has not yet dared to tell. And so her posts are like many others, like this kind of I've been at that event and that event and so on. But we talk about that recently, how much know-how and how much insights she has that she could bring out to the world,
yeah,
which are absolutely amazing. And I think these kind of, let's say, treasures are in most of us
yeah. I
who
agree.
aren't talking about that and just posting like I've been at this event and that event. Try to write more about this. You would not only making LinkedIn a much more valuable place, but
Yeah,
this also helps your career and the way you are seen by people much
yeah,
more than just posting about having a nice beer with my colleagues.
yeah. No, I agree. I
Fine,
agree,
yeah,
mate. People should share their stories, good and bad.
yeah,
You know, about the
absolutely,
workplace because we've all been through good and
yeah,
bad in the workplace. So share it, and you never know, you might find somebody out there who absolutely resonates with what you have been through and are going through that, and will
Exactly.
reach out and want help or talk about it. So it's a powerful thing. I think LinkedIn itself, it's obvious it's a business. It's becoming more of a business as we go on. For me, it probably peaked about 10 years ago. It was great. It was like the hub of all, it was really, really good. But, persevere. It might come through again. I wouldn't be surprised if it does.
Yeah.
Come on. And I genuinely do hope that they do invite me in, because I would love to understand, the approach, how it works, what's the ethos of the company, and what's their goals for the future and strategy. So you never know. If I get in, I'll let you know, Alex, and I'll give you some feedback on what I find.
Do you know the move in Soylent Green? This Charlton Heston?
Rings a bell. I've heard the name, but
when you said you want to experience that, I'm not really sure. You find out things like in that movie with Soylent Green is people. I'm not really sure. I will after recording. I will explain what I mean. And you should look this movie up.
I will. Yeah,
definitely. And what we also are definitely doing, we will continue this conversation at some later time.
Yeah, I'd love to.
It was really great. Really great. Thank you for taking your time. Really learned a lot, and looking forward already to our next action.
Yeah, thank you for having me, mate. I've loved it.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.